Today on Locked On Canadiens, the New York Islanders came calling for Jeff Gorton, and Montreal told them to kick rocks.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 1304 of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that supports us here on the show and ensures you will not miss an episode. We are your show every day, 5 days a week, even into the offseason. We're still going to be here talking Montreal Canadiens, talking Laval Rocket in this particular instance. So stick with us. We're very excited to be bringing you guys some offseason content. And let us know what you guys want to hear, what you guys want us to talk about. We're very amenable to giving you guys the show you want to hear. So always reach out. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as that. Maybe it's Ian. I am joined, as I always am, by Laura Saba, the active stick. Laura, how are we feeling today?
We're glad we don't have to watch the Cleveland Monsters again, or whatever they are now.
Yeah, look, we'll talk about the Laval Rocket advancing out of their first playoff round, although because they got a bye into the second round essentially. But we'll talk about their playoff victory over the Cleveland Monsters. We'll talk about what I teased off the top of the show. The Islanders have apparently asked the Canadiens for permission to talk to Jeff Gorton, and the Canadiens said nope. So we'll talk about what that means. Maybe start to think of a world of what it might look like in Montreal without Jeff Gorton, and think about what might be headed Montreal's way in that respect. And of course, we're going to end talking about our boy Lane Hutson being nominated for the Calder, one of the three finalists for the award. We'll talk his chances of winning it. And we'll get into a little bit of the other conversations from Monday, which was our draft lottery. And it was the first one in a while Canadiens fans didn't really need to be all that interested in. And it still kind of turned out pretty well for Montreal. So we'll get into all that today. But let's start in Laval, Game 4 of their best-of-5 series against the Cleveland Monsters. In Game 3, Laval came out. They were flat. Cleveland very much wasn't. They knew the task at hand. They took it to Laval. That was not the case on Tuesday night in Laval. Laval came out. They were dominant from the beginning. They went up 3-0 in the first period and really never looked back. So they're on their way to the second round, or I guess it would be the North Division final against the Rochester Americans. And it just really looked like a great effort from everyone involved on that team. What are your thoughts coming out of that game against Cleveland?
There's so many interesting players. There's so many exciting players, right? You want to talk Barré-Boulet, who we love on the show. We want to talk Florian Jacquet, who at some point, I think maybe 20 or 30 games into the season, I was like, I want to see the Montreal Canadiens give this guy a 5-game stretch. I want to see what he does in the NHL, because he came better than advertised in the AHL. And I really want his game to translate, because he's a thing that people keep calling for, right? And so, Fowler, obviously, and like, honestly, I'm not mad about not having to see Cleveland again for a while.
Yeah,
definitely. And I know the AHL is a little bit more of a violent league, but it just seemed like, I was like, this is Belleville Senators behavior. This is, it was just, it was not fun to watch, but it was fun to watch Laval. Who did I miss? Did I say Sean Farrell? I don't even know if I mentioned him yet.
He's on an absolute heater right now. He's incredible, and he didn't even really figure into this game very much. Alex Barré-Boulet had a 3-point night. I thought Joshua Waugh was much improved. He was much maligned.
We do need to talk about him, because he heard us talking crap. Yeah. He heard we were talking crap. When I say we, I mean the collective we. I don't mean this show. I mean collectively. We were talking crap about him.
But we'll wear that. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm more than happy to talk crap about a player, and then immediately the next day when he does something cool, be like, that was really cool. I'm not going to die on that hill. That's not worth anyone's time.
Yeah. No, and I just mean, he had a lot of naysayers to shut up, and then he shut us up.
For sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And he set up. He didn't end up getting an assist on this play, on the first power play goal for Laval, where he makes a diving poke check back off the faceoff to keep the play alive. It ends up moving around after that, but he doesn't end up getting an assist. But the play gets created because of an effort play from Joshua Waugh, something we want to see. I continue to watch this team through the lens of what we heard from Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes on Monday, which is compete. They want to see compete. That's compete. right?
Yeah.
That's not something that like nobody, like you have to go out and find players who can do that. You can all do that. And that's what I loved about that play from Joshua Waugh. That first line with Dauphin and ABB has been incredible with Farrell. I also thought, they moved Owen Beck down to the fourth line because Brendan Gignac came back. And I thought that was kind of odd, but that fourth line ended up scoring it all, but they were incredible. I counted like 6 grade A scoring chances from the fourth line.
Fourth line, right? Like, and that was the thing too. Like, it brought out a dimension to Owen Beck that maybe I haven't seen. Maybe it has been there all season, but it brought out a dimension to him that I was not expecting, right? Like he the only way I can describe it is he looked playoff ready.
Yeah, he did. That whole line played a very tough, heavy game, but they also there were a lot of instances where they were doing behind the back passes to one another that were landing, creating scoring opportunities. That is going to be a problem for Rochester. If you're looking down at a fourth line and seeing Brandon Davidson, Florian Jacki, a 20-goal scorer, and Owen Beck, who played NHL games this year and very well could play more of them next year.
Yeah.
Like that's the fourth line is in the playoffs, especially. The goal is to just go out and not make any mistakes, give your top line guys a chance to rest, sort of just buy them time. When your fourth line can do that and hem in the other team, that's what allows, because then your opponent doesn't have a chance to catch their breath, right? They're now defending against a fourth line instead of just chipping the puck in deep and getting your forecheck going and doing all the things that you'd like to be able to do, especially as the road team. Now you've got these 3 coming out over the boards and not only taking it to you, but nearly scoring on several different occasions in that game. I thought, that I was texting with Scott during the game, and I said that Pascal Vincent cooked with that line. Like, that's a great line. I hope it stays together.
Yeah.
Really quick, let's talk goaltending, because they put Fowler back in the net after Caden Primo was in net for game 3, and they lost in a game where I don't think any of the goals you can hang on Caden Primo. I thought that the Rocket were just bad in front of him. And now they put Fowler in net and they look incredible in front of Fowler. He didn't have to make a ton of great saves in this one. Is there a goaltending controversy here?
Do we start rumors now that the team just hates Caden Primo?
No, we don't do that.
Fair. They played really well in front of him all season long, right? He's the guy, as you mentioned a couple of nights ago, he's the guy that got them there. Right. I just think that what he's doing right now, what Pascal Vincent is doing right now, is riding a hot hand. Right. As soon as Fowler loses, it's Primo's turn back into the net. Like, that's what I feel like he's doing, because he's got 2 really good AHL goalies. Right. And it's not going to hurt Fowler's development for him to play more games in high stakes settings. It feels like the message was unfair to Primo. But I don't know that really, like, it was like a thing where he was demoting Primo and promoting Fowler. I think he's just riding the hot hand. That's it.
Yeah, I kind of see, the NHL analog of this would have been the Bruins from a few years ago when they had both Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman playing at the peak of their powers. Right?
A cautionary tale.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it can work. It just conceivably you can say, okay, we have 2 really great goaltenders, but eventually in this playoff run,
choose one.
If you have 2 number 1 goaltenders, you don't have one, right? Like, you need one guy you can lean on. And as silly as it is, if they play better in front of Fowler, you have to play Fowler.
Yes.
Which is just, it stinks for Primo, because like, he worked his way back. He dominated the AHL. He got them there.
He's been to a final before with this team, right? Like, he dragged them into a final before a couple of years ago. So,
and on top of that, like, the only reason why he lost this net is because Sam Montembeault pulled his groin. That's the only reason that Fowler is starting games in the playoffs. So it's just it's that's what it is being a minor league goaltender, I imagine. I also think that there's not
player.
Right, exactly.
It's just more pronounced with goaltending, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a goaltending controversy. I think the Laval Rocket players created that by their poor play in game 3 and then their great play in game 4. I think if they were to put Primo in for game 1, I have no issues with them winning a game. Like, I think they'd be fine with him in net. It's a good problem to have right now. But look, Rochester has another great goaltender as well, in Devin Levi, who we know from his time in Buffalo. Very crowded net in Buffalo, though it seems like none of them really want the net in Buffalo. So we'll see how that plays out. It'll be interesting to see how they match up against one of the better teams. And Rochester swept their last series. They've been waiting for Laval this whole time. So we'll have to see how they react to that.
Yeah, but Laval matches up really well against Rochester, right? And
Yes.
we're gonna
I
see if we
mentioned
can
it.
get. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, I mentioned in the last episode that they were 6-1-1 against the Rochester Americans
Yeah.
this season. So that's a matchup that's very favorable to the Rocket.
Absolutely. And the Rocket look incredible. Honestly, like you could tell in game 3, they were just lazy. You could tell, right?
Yeah.
It was just like they just weren't, it wasn't connecting. They just didn't show up. They didn't play for a full 60. They were, so, and again, I feel like lazy is kind of a harsh word. I think they were just kind of not engaged enough. How about that? Not engaged.
Yeah, I think they just didn't match what Cleveland was throwing at them.
Yeah.
Cleveland was playing for their lives, and Laval kind of got, punched in the mouth to start that. And then I think they realized that, and they recognized what Cleveland was going to try to do to start game 4. And Laval was on top of that from the very beginning. They did not let Cleveland get started. And that was the recipe for their success on Tuesday.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And we're going to see if we can get Scott. Scott has a very, very busy time right now with work, but we're going to see if he's going to be able to spare some time to talk to us about this upcoming series and the Laval Rocket in general and Florian Jacki, because we know on this show you love all kinds of Jacki talk.
Yes. Yeah, he's the man. I'm one of the more intriguing prospects that this franchise has right now. So it's very exciting to see where his career can go from here. All right, we'll leave the Laval Rocket where they are, which is waiting for their next round to start. And we'll come back to Montreal, where we'll kind of look at some of the news that came and went on Tuesday. As quick as it was here, it left us. It was the Islanders want Jeff Gorton, and Montreal saying, nah, you can't have him. We'll get into that in just a minute. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety, whether I'm at my desk or I'm on the road and I just need a grab and go snack for those busy days. They're always my go-to, especially the different varieties. I personally love the sea salt and vinegar and the chili roasted. Those are my absolute favorites. But if you like cracking into every shell for that satisfying crunch, don't worry, they have not forgotten about you. The in-shell options are always a classic favorite. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, we are back, Laura. And it's weird to be on this side of this kind of rumor, right? That the Islanders are looking for their new general manager. They are putting out feelers. They're trying to understand the market. And was it Arthur Staple who came out with the report that the New York Islanders had reached out to the Montreal Canadiens for permission to talk to Jeff Gorton, of which then Pierre LeBrun replied and said they asked, and the Canadiens said no, he's here to stay. It's very. I can't be alone in thinking it's very odd to be on this side of that rumor where people want the people that are on this team, right? Like it's been forever since that's been the case. No.
It's usually, Montreal gets thrown in the other direction. What I thought was really funny was the way that LeBrun phrased it, which I hope is the way the Canadiens phrased it, which was the Islanders inquired and were told he is staying in Montreal, which I really hope that was the conversation. I would like to think that the organization is asking Jeff Gorton, and Jeff Gorton's like, nah, it's fine. As you pointed out, he's the executive VP of hockey operations. So to go back to being a GM, kind of a demotion depending on how your organization runs, right? I think the biggest thing though is that Jeff Gorton is the kind of guy who has presided over rebuilds in the past, and one was successful. Somebody else ended up getting the credit for the success. And then there was one that was going really well, and then they fired him, and now it's in disarray, right? So I feel like he seems to be like the kind of guy where right now in your career, like this is an ideal opportunity because you don't just want to achieve, you want to achieve with bigger and bigger stakes. And I'm sorry to say, and I don't mean this, like I don't mean any disrespect to the New York Islanders or their fans, but bringing Montreal back to Stanley Cup winning or Stanley Cup contention or winning, bringing back a Stanley Cup to Montreal is kind of like almost the height of a hockey career, right? Like a height of a hockey front office career. Because right now you're in a market that is insane. It's not just insane, it's it's been longer for them, right? Actually, no, the Islanders were 92. I can't even remember.
They last won in the 80s.
They
Yeah,
last
the
one in the
Islanders
80s, right?
haven't won in a
I
while.
keep
Yeah.
confusing, like, I keep
Yeah.
confusing all the dynasties.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, he's only really been here for a couple of years. It's not like he started something and he's going to abandon the project, right? I think that there will be a point where he'll be a GM again, and it'll be after he's moved on from this VP, the situation, and it'll be after he's probably taken some time to think, and he's looking to get back into hockey management, and that's the thing that becomes available. Right now, he's somewhere where it looks like he really enjoys working with Kent Hughes. It looks like he really enjoys, like, the building aspect, and I think he's really good at it. And one thing that I really, really enjoy about him is that he doesn't seem to take himself too seriously.
Nope.
Right?
He's the first. Jeff Gorton is the first one to make fun of Jeff Gorton. Like,
Exactly.
it's every time.
Yeah. So I would like to think, because this is not the first time, right? Like last offseason, somebody, I can't remember who was fired, and they inquired about Jeff Gorton, and the Canadiens said no. If I were the Canadiens, though, like, I really do hope they are asking him. It's not like because I would like to think that you're respecting him enough and you're giving him that opportunity, and he's the one choosing to stay, because at some point he's going to start looking at it as, are they blocking my opportunities? Right?
Yeah. I want to look at this report, because there was something in this report from Arthur Staple that it just doesn't pass the sniff test to me. And that is that the very top of it was that Ken Holland is their first choice in New York. Then it said the New York Islanders reached out for permission to talk to Jeff Gorton, which now we know was denied. They did not want to give them that permission. And then the report says that Marc Bergevin is also in contention for that job and the now vacant general manager job in Los Angeles. And I can't help but think, having watched a team that was run by Marc Bergevin and now run by Jeff Gorton, those aren't the same guy. Like that I would say Marc Bergevin and Ken Holland are very similar types of, like, old school, old brain hockey guy nonsense. That I find it funny that all three of these guys are in conversation together. I mentioned this to someone in passing. It would be like if you were talking to somebody about dinner plans, and you're like, okay, here are my top 3 restaurants: a really nice steakhouse and then 2 really bad fast food places. It'd be like, well, what? Those aren't the same. Like, why? What are you thinking? Why are those your options? Yeah. So that was my first thought here, was that, the Canadiens, they don't have to. I should say that the Islanders, they're not thinking. I don't think that that's real. I don't think that they had any intention of talking to Jeff Gorton. I think that they knew that was going to get shut down immediately. The other aspect of this for me is that, like, yes, he's the executive vice president of hockey operations. Make no mistake, that is just because Jeff Molson is technically the president. Gorton's running this. Like, this is him. He hired Kent. He hired Marty. This is him. Like,
yeah, he's
I know
the one they run things by, right?
Yes, I know Jeff Molson has his hand in this because he always wants to, and that's fine. And he finally did the right thing by hiring a guy in between him and the general manager, which was the right thing. And regardless of whether or not Gorton is here in the future, that needs to stay a thing. Yeah. That we cannot have, general manager talking directly to the owner of the team. There needs to be a buffer. And I think that's been wildly successful, not only in Montreal, but everywhere else that uses that model. So those are my main thoughts coming out of this report. And I hope, we talked about the Hugo ship name. It lives, right? Yeah. Hugo forever. We get to keep them for now. We'll see how long that lasts. Because like you said, maybe one day he's going to want to move into a different opportunity. Hopefully it's after a couple of rings here in Montreal, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up that ownership and general manager dynamic. I know we're running out of time in this segment, but real quick, because the thing is, when you hear about anything Jeff Molson says, right, he's a Habs fan, right? Like, he owns the Habs, he's the president, but he's a Habs fan, right?
Sure.
You can't have a fan running the team. Like, it's just not going to work, right?
I should not be allowed to run this team. Like that, like when you're thinking of like Jeff Molson as a fan, that's me. Like, just think of that. I shouldn't be nowhere near the front office of this hockey team.
Think of what I'm giving up to get Sidney Crosby.
Yes, exactly. Everything.
Right? So like you need that guy in the middle who's not absolutely neutral, right? Like he has a lot of stakes riding on this team being successful, but he has a little bit of the like there's the business guy, there's the feelings guy, and then there's the guy that kind of understands it, right? Like understands both sides. So that's kind of how I look at it. And again, like the thing is like Arthur Staple is like the most connected person covering the
Sure.
Islanders, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's the most respected person covering the Islanders. And LeBron, like he's got spies all over the Habs, right? Like he's so connected. Like somebody is feeding him information. It might even be Gorton or Hughes himself or Jeff Molson, right?
Yeah.
So like the way that it came out, like automatically, it's like you said, it feels like the Islanders did that exercise so that then they can say, okay, well, we were shot down. Now we're gonna get this other guy who's not the one you wanted, but we couldn't get the one you wanted, right?
Right. That's what it feels like to be, because these are just three different guys. Like they're not, I should say it's one different guy from the other two who are very much the same brand of guy. What the final note I'll have on that Arthur Staple report is that he mentions nobody's asking about Kekalainen or Peter Chiarelli. That's mean. You didn't need to do that. Like they're just chilling. We didn't need to like just bring them up. As you mentioned earlier, other people took the success of Jeff Gorton. Peter Chiarelli's one of them in Boston.
He's absolutely one of them. And I just feel like if you know Arthur, he's like the nicest guy ever. So for him to throw that in there, you wonder what happened back in the day, right?
Yeah, I just found that to be so funny. It's like, hey, nobody's calling about these guys. Just thought you guys should know. I'll check in again in a couple weeks, let you know if anybody's called old Pete, see if he wants a job. The answer will be no. I can't imagine anybody's going to want to hire that guy after what he did to many hockey teams, let alone just one of them. Anyway, we'll leave that there. We'll stop dunking on Peter Chiarelli in the year 2025. Maybe we'll kick it back up eventually, but we'll move on from now. When we come back, we're going to talk about Lane Hutson being nominated for the Calder, and we're going to talk about the results of the 2025 Draft Lottery, and we'll get into that in just a minute.
An award-winning mattress can change your life. I speak from experience. It happened to me. After years of uncomfortable sleeps, I recently switched to Bear Mattress, and the results were instant. Bear Mattress is designed with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. I used to deal with night sweats, but Bear's best-in-class cooling ensures optimal temperature regulation, which prevents overheating and helps me stay comfortable all night long. Bear offers a wide variety of mattresses, but to get the right one for you, take their sleep quiz that matches you to your perfect mattress based on body type and sleep preferences. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
All right, we are back. Final segment for me for a little while. I'm going on a little bit of a vacation, so I will leave you in Laura's hands and whoever she chooses to occupy this rectangle that I am currently in on YouTube.
I've got some fun guests lined up. I've also got a lot of Jack-Eye talk. We know you love that stuff. We're going to talk about Jack-Eye. We're going to talk about Anderson. I will bring up the size debate. There will be a mailback question. He's just going away for a few days. Everything's going to be fine. I did want to mention, though, we do trivia at the end of every episode. I think like we have to start a thing where like, who caught strays in today's Locked On Canadiens? And you can put that in the comments.
Yeah, Locked On Beef. I still have beef with Peter Chiarelli, man. That guy won a cup based on nothing, just like a team he didn't really even build.
Work.
Unbelievable. Yeah, you're right. I think we should. Locked On Beef is real now. Let's talk about the Calder Trophy. Let's talk about the finalists here. Lane Hutson is a finalist for the trophy. Shouldn't really say nominee anymore because the votes are already tallied. That's how they come up with these finalists. Yeah. So it's him. It's Macklin Celebrini out of San Jose, and it's Dustin Wolf who gets into that nomination, or I should say finalist. See, I just went against my own rule. The finalist spot, very surprisingly so. Not so much in that he didn't deserve it. He absolutely does, Dustin Wolf, because he carried that Calgary Flames team to relevancy, despite the fact that they probably shouldn't have been there. But the surprising part is that Matvei Michkov gets left off that top three, and I'm curious to see where he probably is 4. He's probably right after, but I'm wondering what the gap is. I'm wondering how far back Matthew Michkov is, because I don't think he deserves to be that far back. He had an incredible season.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people counted on Lane Hutson putting up over 60 points as a rookie defenseman. I think that is the thing that really shook up this entire conversation. No?
I think so. And I think the biggest thing for me was we mentioned Dustin Wolf during the Four Nations break on this show. Like, we did a crossover episode with Rachel of Locked On Flyers, JD of Locked On Sharks. And we threw in Dustin Wolf there, kind of not as a throwaway, but as a guy we were watching. Right. And we really did feel at the time that the top three were going to be Celebrini, Lane Hutson, Michkov, and then Dustin Wolf with an honorable mention. And also, one of the big things was there at that time, there was kind of a debate as to whether it would be Celebrini or Lane Hutson. Right. And that changed very much in the second half of the season. Now, I don't want to like call out any names or anything like that, but I got into a bit of discussion, and I didn't even get into it as much as other people got into it in my Menchies on Blue Sky. And there was somebody that was arguing, and I later checked their allegiances, and it was a Leafs fan. There was somebody that was arguing that Dustin Wolf deserved it more than Lane Hutson because he almost got Calgary to a playoff run, right?
Mhm.
And then another Leafs fan started arguing with him about how Lane Hutson deserved it more, which I thought was really funny, because the thing is, if you look at it in context, right? Like, Celebrini was always supposed to be there. He was always going to be this good. He was always going to be must-see TV every night. He's going to just be amazing going forward, right? Lane Hutson, people thought that he was going to be good. I don't think anyone thought he was going to be this good. He didn't single-handedly propel Montreal Canadiens into the playoffs, but I think it's notable that Montreal did get into the playoffs and Calgary did not. That's crucial, right?
Yeah.
But also... he broke a bunch of records, or tied a bunch of records at the same time. He broke records, tied records, came close, whatever it was, right? Throughout the year as he got closer to the end. So not only was he a large part of some of the Canadiens' wins that propelled them into the playoffs. So for me, it's like, you know, and Jared Book of Habs Eyes on the Prize made an argument saying it's best rookie, not most valuable player, right?
Yep.
It's best rookie. And hands down, who's the best rookie? The one who breaks the records, who shatters the records, right?
Yep. Yeah. If we are having this conversation about, you know, it is miles harder to break the rookie scoring record for a forward. It just is, because isn't it Teemu? Isn't it Solani? Like, he had like over 100 points. Yeah. No one's touching that. Like, that's never going to break. And that's like, them's the breaks when you're a forward, right?
Right. Absolutely.
The difference is, though, is that like the record for a rookie defenseman, it's still rarefied air. You look at the people that Hutson is now standing alongside his peers. It's nuts. Like, it shouldn't. I don't think that this vote will be particularly close. I think Hutson gets this in a walk. That is, but again, that's not to say that like the others aren't worthy of being in this conversation. They are. Macklin Celebrini is going to be a problem for this league. So is Dustin Wolf, right? And to be honest, next year we're looking at the Calder as something that Ivan Demidov can win. We just got done watching Jet Greaves play not only for the Columbus Blue Jackets towards the end, where we were watching way too much Columbus Blue Jackets hockey for Canadiens fans because we were desperately hoping they would lose. Something Jet Greaves
was doing the same thing.
Something Jet Greaves did not allow them to do. He was phenomenal, and he was half my notes in this Laval Cleveland series is Greaves robs insert player. He was incredible. Like, half my notebook is just how great Jet Greaves was. That's the sort of impact I can see him having next year. Like the Dustin Wolf kind of effect on a team like Columbus, who should be ready to take that next step and actually make the playoffs. Like, that'll be a fun one to watch too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd rather they make it than like the Detroits, the Buffaloes, and the Ottawa Senators of the world. It's just that the Montreal Canadiens need to be aware of it.
Yep. No question. Speaking of the Montreal Canadiens being aware of it, we are finally aware of the Montreal Canadiens draft pick that they got from the Calgary Flames. The conditions are over, and we now know that pick is 16th. And Montreal's own pick is 17th. The draft lottery being awarded to the New York Islanders, moving up 10 spots. Very funny. I can't remember the last time that's happened, if ever. I just find it funny that this was like the first draft lottery that didn't matter at all for the Canadiens in a very long time. And the Canadiens were still one of the only teams not screwed by what happened, because so many teams, Utah moved up from like 14, right? Yeah. So everybody
Detroit moved down.
Everybody moved down except Montreal. We have two picks, 16 and 17. What are the odds that Montreal picks with both of those?
No, none. Zero.
Yeah.
Kent Hughes is calling people saying, I will give you 2 top 20 picks for whatever.
Yeah.
He's
I think,
literally doing that right now. He's
yeah,
probably in the
I
group
think,
chat doing that.
I think it's more likely that they pick with none of those than they pick with one of them. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that they're firing both of those out the window to get something that can help now,
Yeah.
whether that's that second line center we keep talking about, the one that Jeff Gorton was unaware that they needed. It was very weird of him to not know that.
Nobody ever talks about it.
I still find that that interaction to be so funny,
So funny.
a day after the fact. But like on top of that, like you could go out and get a right shot defenseman, another tool that the Canadians may need. So I'm right there with you. I think we're gonna do draft prep. We're gonna figure out what the Canadians could feasibly do in that spot. But the caveat being the entire time
They're probably gonna trade it.
do not get attached to those draft picks, please. Like, we are in the moment now where it's time to stop doing that, because making picks with all those players doesn't really help the Canadians anymore.
Right now, because they need people that are ready or are going to be ready in like a year.
Yeah, and those draft picks, unless they develop into pretty promising prospects, those draft picks are more valuable now as lottery tickets than they are as actual prospects. So you're better off moving them now before, they pick, you pick 2 guys in there that don't pan out, right?
Yeah.
So,
and they could also trade them separately, like trade them in separate packages. But I really do think that like Kent Hughes is working the phones right now, being like, I got 2 top 20s. What are you going to give me?
Yeah, and there are some teams that I think, need to make a decision on whether or not they're rebuilding. The New York Islanders are one of those, and that's a team that I know a lot of people are looking at Bo Horvat. We're going to talk about that as a potential 2C or not 2C option. But the other one there is potentially a Noah Dobson. Like, does Montreal try to make a run at a right-hand shot defenseman like that who can step into the lineup next year for Montreal and be an impact player?
I think the other question is like who the Islanders end up hiring, right? Because it could be somebody that Kent Hughes could easily fleece.
Yeah, like Ken Holland or Mark Bergevin, just 2 options I just came up out of nowhere. Or maybe Peter Chiarelli finds his way onto the short list somehow, even after a day of ridicule he did not deserve, but also absolutely deserved every second of. Anyway, we'll leave that there. We'll have plenty of talk for you guys about the draft as we move into the summer, and as we figure out what the Canadians' intentions are with those 2 draft picks. So stick with us here at Locked On Canadiens. All right. Let's hit our trivia, Laura, and then I'm going on vacation, and there's nothing any of you can do to stop me. Yesterday's question was taking over in the net of in the middle of Game 3. Jakub Dobeš ended up winning that playoff game and becoming the 3rd Habs rookie goaltender in the last 20 years to win a playoff game. He joined Carey Price and this other goalie. Laura, do you have the name of the other goalie?
I don't actually. I was going to guess Yaroslav Halak, but then somebody guessed Cristobal Huet, and now I don't know.
It was neither of those. The other one to do it, Dustin Tokarski.
Oh, wow.
He won back in 2014, Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Final, a 3-2 overtime win. That was they were down 2-0 in that series. That was the one where Chris Kreider, of course, ran into Carey Price. We will never forgive him. Do you remember who scored the game winner in that game, the overtime winner for Montreal back at Madison Square Garden in Game 3?
No, I was in Greece at the time.
It was Alex Galchenyuk. He got hit by the puck in front of the net, and it went in, if I remember that play correctly. So Alex Galchenyuk, game winner, in Dustin Tokarski's rookie win in the playoffs. All right.
Also, I do know math. I just refuse to believe that we're so old that Cristobal Huet's, that Jose Theodore's rookie season was not like within the last 20 years. Sorry.
No, it just misses the cut, Laura. That's unfortunate. Let's talk about the Calder. Today's question is about the Calder. Ken Dryden was the last Montreal Canadien to win the Calder Trophy, but who was the last one before him? So who was the last Montreal Canadien before Ken Dryden to win the Calder Trophy? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below our YouTube video. Join our contest while you're down there. We are giving away a signed photo of Josh Anderson once we hit 4,500 subscribers, and a signed photo of Arbor Xhekaj once we get to 5,000 subscribers, only to YouTube subscribers. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube and put a contest entry down in the comments to enter you for those drawings, and we'll give away those prizes once we hit those beautiful milestones. But that's going to do it for us today on this episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thanks so much for tuning in and for making us your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We are also available on your Amazon Fire TV. On your free Fire TV channels app, click the Montreal Canadiens logo in the hockey section, and you can watch all of our episodes there as well. You can find us just about everywhere. We're posting things on social media at Locked On Canadiens, mostly Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. Thanks so much for tuning in, and Laura, we'll see you tomorrow.